Welcome to the Awesome Marriage Podcast today. We are so honored today to welcome Martha and Neil Fisher. They're going to be on the podcast. Martha and Neil are joining us, and Martha is our newest member of the Awesome Marriage team. She is a Facebook and online church expert guru and is joining our team to lead our new Facebook groups initiative, which we are extremely excited about. And so it's great to have you guys so people can get to know you. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I was thinking the first of this year, one of the things that God just laid on me, we need to do something about building community with Awesome Marriage. We touch people in so many ways, but I love for people to be able to connect. And then we decided Facebook is the way to do that. And then God brought us Martha, and I'm so excited as we launch that in very soon, and so excited about that. So let's let people kind of get to know you guys and your story. How long have you been married? How'd you meet? Kind of give us all the details.
You want to start?
I'll let you start. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we've been married 25 years. In November, we'll be 26. And so I'll give you my perspective, which is that I moved here into San Antonio, Texas with my children from Abilene, Texas. My son at the time was going to school down in Kingsville, so it was really just my daughter and I. We moved here. I looked for a job in outside sales, just found a job doing sales for Toshiba. And one day I made a cold call. You make cold calls in that job. It's a very hard job, by the way. I made a cold call. It was on the phone. And it had been a particularly tough day. People had been rude, some of them, and I just had a rough day. And Neil answered the phone for his business. He owned Fisher Engineering at the time. And he was just kind and was very welcoming and really didn't have a need for what I was selling that day. But he did say I should stop by and leave my information with him. And so I did. I think it was a few days later, and I was in the area. So I went by his business. He was not there. But one of his employees was very insistent that I come back because he said, my boss is going to want to meet you. So I said, okay. So I don't remember if it was the same day or if it was a few days later. I don't remember. But I did go back to the office, and he was there. And so we began to just talk and get acquainted, and come to find out, he actually had a college suite mate, I believe it was, that I had actually dated in high school. And so he had actually seen a picture of me years and years and years ago because of this common friendship, I guess you could say.
Right.
So that's how we met. I think he has a different perspective on it. I'll let him go with his.
I seem to joke around with people on the phone like my dad used to do. And just let the salesmen on the phone know that we understand how tough their job is, and just try to get some humor into the conversation. And I was joking around, and she took the bait. So when she came over, we sat down in my office and got to talking, and I asked her where she was from, and she told me, and that's when I brought up this other guy's name, if she knew him, and she said yes, she did. Well, this other guy was a very good Western dancer, so I knew at the time that she could probably Western dance. So I asked her to go Western dancing with me, and I found out later that she was in much better shape than I was. She had been teaching over a dozen aerobics classes a week.
Oh my gosh!
So she danced my feet off that night. So I figured, well, this may be a pretty good match. But yeah, we've been married 25 years. Both of us were previously married, so we blended our families. And it's been great watching the different stages of the kids and how they accepted us getting married and how it all came together.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't say what he usually says, which is, well, I don't know. She was just going door to door looking for a husband.
So how many kids do you guys have between you?
Well, she had an older son that was about 19, I guess, at the time,
20.
And a daughter that was in middle school. And then I had a daughter that was 5, 6.
She's 3.
She was
4
3 when you met her.
when I met her.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got her when she was 6.
She was 6 when we married. Mhm.
So now those kids are up, grown.
Right.
All of them have graduated from college. All of them are married. All of them have their kids, and they're all doing great. So that really helps us be able to be on the road doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
We have grandchild number 9 on the way.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool.
The
So let's
oldest-
go ahead.
The oldest grandchild is 25.
Okay. Wow.
They sprinkle on down to the one that'll be born here this coming
The
September.
brand new one.
Right.
That youngest one will probably get a lot of attention from all the older ones, I would imagine.
That's right.
So, Martha, tell us a little bit about how you started working with Facebook groups and online church. And, just the first time you and I just talked, I could just see your passion for those groups because of what you've seen happen in those groups. So tell us a little bit about that.
I will. I actually had been serving as the women's pastor at Community Bible Church here in San Antonio for many years. And there was a young man that they hired in to develop online church. His name was Neil Smith. And I watched him for about 6 months, what he was doing, saw the success that he was having. And I picked the phone up one day and I just asked him a question. I said, Niels, do you think this would work for groups? Because we were big into community groups. And he said, I have no idea. You want to try it? And so I guess I could say curiosity is what got me involved in it. I honestly was brand new to Facebook groups, so I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. But what happened is that curiosity fanned the flame into a bonfire that what Satan was using for evil, we could use for good.
Really, really good. As you mentioned Nils, and people listen to the podcast. Nils is one of our co-hosts, and obviously Nils is our connection to find you. So it's so amazing how God just uses the different people that have come to Awesome Marriage to continue to lead great people to help with this ministry. So, yeah, we're thankful that Nils took that step with us. So, tell us a little bit about your experience with Facebook groups then, and maybe even a little of what you envision as we launch Facebook groups for Awesome Marriage.
Okay. Well, as I say, I was new to Facebook, and I really don't think I even understood the concept. I mean, I could not understand how anyone would really care what somebody else ate for dinner the night before. It just didn't make sense to me. So I came at this very skeptical, I would say. But what I saw immediately happening was that women, because these were all women's groups, because that's what my interest was at the time, that these women from all over the world were connecting with one another. Women are women, no matter where they are.
Yep.
They have many of the same issues, many of the same dreams and hopes. And so I just began seeing just how this bond could form so quickly. So the first thing I did was I went to meetup.com and I thought, so where are people meeting up face to face? What is it that's drawing people together? And I kind of took from that what I call our affinity groups. So I began forming Facebook groups that had to do with common interests. So for instance, a cancer care community was one of them. There was one for women who were longing to have children but were having infertility issues. There were some that were Bible studies, and that was their common bond. But for many, it had to do with something they were kind of going through. What I began seeing were that these groups reached over thousands of miles. And there were new believers that were coming into the Word of God in Pakistan, for instance. We were connecting people from all over the world. It was just exhilarating to me to see how God was using that format of Facebook to resource the under-resourced, to share and care with one another in tragedy, like when Nepal had earthquake upon earthquake upon earthquake. And we were sending, relief efforts that direction. connected us to people in the Philippines who had been affected by tsunamis. There were leaders who came from those countries because of these faith groups that have serviced and become mighty, mighty men and women of God over in those countries. I'm almost teary because it just
Awesome.
It's just almost too much to take in. So, my experience basically has been that it's been an education to understand the differences in culture and language.
Sure.
There were some barriers there in the beginning. Still are. It was inspiring to me because people in the United States do not understand what persecution is. People in Pakistan, they get it. They understand
sure.
They get it. So it has been very inspiring to me and extremely humbling to watch how God has used our bumbling efforts in many regards. We've probably figured out more of what doesn't work than what does.
Mm-hmm.
But use those bumbling efforts to affect his kingdom. It's just been an amazing ride.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And how many Facebook groups did you have at one time?
40.
Wow. A lot of groups going. And that's why we're so excited as you bring that experience, with Community Bible. You guys have worked out all the kinks and bring a lot of expertise and knowledge as you come into this. Our first group that we're going to launch is going to be for newlyweds, couples that are just newly married or in the first year of marriage, or certainly we'll take someone that's that considers them newlyweds and hope to connect them with each other, help them just share their journey together and to give them some direction, give them some tools. And so I'm so excited about that. I have such a passion for helping people get to that through that first year of marriage, because we know now the statistics of divorce in the first year of marriage are higher than they've ever been. So we're excited about what can happen there and what you bring to that. Any other thoughts about the new group that we're getting ready to start?
I think I have grieved over the years being in women's ministry. I've grieved over the years that the divorce rate in the Christian community is just as high as it is. Those marriages often look exactly what they look like out in the secular world, and that's always grieved me. So I really look at this as a way to affect some change in that area, and I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to come alongside you to work toward that end. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And again, we're so excited to get this going. So let's talk a little bit more about you guys. Blended families, we have a ton of them. We know that probably half the families in our culture and our nation are blended families, and a lot of unique challenges of that. You guys handled that a number of years ago when there probably were no resources. If there were, they were very, very little. So how did you guys navigate that with the 3 kids and being a blended family?
Yeah. I believe it helped us by being 40 years old when we got married. We had already both been through the first marriages and the ups and downs of when you're 20 and 25 being married. So I think a lot of ours had to do with the fact that we had already been through a lot of the humps, the growing pains that you have that first 5 to 7 years in your marriage. And by being a blended family and having kids that, with her kids being already, one of them was out of the house, one of them was getting ready to go into high school. It's a different story than having kids that are 2 and 3 and 4 years old. And being so with ours, I wanted her to be the nurturing mother to my daughter, and for Martha to bring my daughter up as Martha was brought up. So I wanted that. And in terms of the older kids really didn't need another dad. They needed a companion that had maturity, that if they wanted to ask questions, they could. And I learned very early on that with our daughter, who was going into high school, that I was not to respond to everything she said unless there was a question in there. And so when she would come in and be talking about all kinds of stuff, I'd let her talk until there was a question directed to me. Then I would answer.
So much wisdom there.
I learned that game And there were times that my wisdom from years of experience around the San Antonio area, because I was born and raised there, I could almost tell or guess ahead what the high school kids were going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that type of thing, it was helping us, because Martha was naive to some of the stuff in the big city.
Sure.
It was a great mix, and I could sit there and say, I don't feel comfortable about this. We need to go do this, this, and this. And sure enough, the kid would have taken the wrong turn, and we'd find out about it later and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll interject this too. Will said that they didn't need another dad, and that's true. But they did need a father figure, and he stepped into that role and has done a fabulous job. I think they would both said in the past, and would tell you today, in fact, that he has been a good role model for them that they did not have.
No, I think that's such an important point. You are going to have an impact on those kids, and you're right. You're not to replace the biological parent, but God can use you in so many powerful ways in a step parent situation like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we gave each other space and support to discipline our children and in the healing of our own brokenness. I think that's an important part too, is that I was recovering from an 18-year marriage to my childhood sweetheart. I was devastated over that. And he was recovering from a failed marriage, obviously, but a bankruptcy and a struggle as a business owner. And we learned to celebrate in each other's strength, but we also learned to kind of fill in the gaps and navigate the gaps for one another as well.
That's really good.
And I am actually.
So as the kids have grown up and now married, have their own kids, does the family still mesh together? Do they still?
In fact, it has been beautiful to watch as we have gone out traveling, to watch how these kids continue to get together as families, have meals together, support one another, love on one another. It has really been beautiful to watch that.
That's awesome.
One of the things with the kids is that the older son is on a ranch. He manages a ranch that is probably 2 hours south of San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
And both of the girls are here in San Antonio, but they're in different quadrants of San Antonio. They're 15, 20 miles apart. And on Easter, last year, I believe it was, that the first Easter that we were gone, the three kids got their families together to go to church and to go out to dinner and to let the kids play and all that kind of stuff. So the families are still mixing very well.
It's pretty amazing when you see it happen when you guys aren't there, that they initiated that on their own. That says a lot about how connected they are.
Yeah. In fact, they anticipated it, Kim, which I thought was pretty cool, because everything had always centered in our home. So
right.
Any celebrations like that, we'd always
sure.
We were making preparations, downsizing the move. The youngest girl, Capri, came in and said at one point, "You need to teach me how to bake a turkey, because you're not going to be here the next time. We need to do that. So teach me how to do that." And so she, they got that. Both the girls began kind of thinking ahead.
Sure.
Here. So how am I going to do that? So that was really sweet. Very sweet.
Oh yeah. Really cool. So obviously things worked really well. You guys, God gave you a lot of wisdom in blending that family. As you look back, is there anything that you would have done different if you could have a do-over?
I think you hit it right on the head earlier when you said there were no resources for us. If we could do it over now, we would probably have multiple people we could go to who have done it ahead of us and give us wise, godly guidance. We didn't know anybody who was doing it 25 years ago. So we really, which is not a bad thing, we relied on God. That's a great thing. But it would have been nice to have someone sit across the table from us to say, "Oh, yeah, this is how we handled that." We didn't have that. But if we had that, we would have certainly plugged into it.
looking at what is available now in Christian counseling, it's almost like having too many cookbooks on the shelf.
Mhm.
Which one do you choose? Everybody's got a little bit of a different twist to everything, and the Bible is still the best instruction book.
Mm.
I mean, the rest of them have little bitty things that they want to include and want to change this and that stuff. That everybody's got a different personality.
Yeah.
So you've got the personality of the husband father figure and the wife mother figure, and you've got the personality of the kids, and you throw the blendedness into that, and you've got personalities from children with personalities from the mother's side that has an absentee father,
Mm-hmm.
children from the father's side that has an absentee mother, and you throw all of that into one big bowl and mix it up. And now you've got to learn how to work with people. And being a business owner, I've been working with people before,
Mm-hmm.
hiring and firing and training and doing contracts and whatever else I needed to do to run my engineering business. So working with the kids, I'm seeing the same type of personality traits as I do when I'm out in the business world. So learning what the kid can do, learning what the kid reacts to. You know, there's some kids that react better to a spanking than a stare down.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids that you stare them down and they change real quick.
Sure.
So it's just the kid. You're watching it out about how the body language and the acceptance to authority works with the kid.
It's really good. You know, I think, we talked in couples in marriage of being a student of your spouse. And I think what you just said there, being a student of your kids is so important. I think sometimes we kind of try to lump kids together and to really see each one's an individual. What works with one may or may not work with another. I think that probably helped you guys. And I think the fact that you didn't have the resources, people do have a lot of resources now. There's a lot of good resources, but I think the fact that your resource was to turn to the Lord, to turn to His Word, and to navigate that together. And obviously, God didn't let you guys down at all in that. He was there to and I think that's for couples anywhere. I mean, if we really turn to God and we really seek His guidance and wisdom, He is going to show up and He is going to help us navigate through things. And now you guys are kind of experts because you've been through it, and you're on the other end of it now, and we can look at the results that are there.
Well, the fun part now is to watch our kids be the parents.
Yeah. Isn't that? Yeah, I agree. That's fun too. It's fun to see them do the things that they told me in one way or the other that they would never do as a parent, but now that they're a parent, that they're doing it. And I'm sure my parents said the same thing about Nancy and I when we were raising our kids, because I think there's a lot of wisdom that we pass down from one generation to another.
One thing about that is our middle child, the daughter that's a social worker, and when she first got her bachelor's degree in social work, all she had was the knowledge from the books and the liberal professors. So she knew everything. She was going to teach the kids this and that. And when she did have kids and she found out that they don't react like the book says. So we've enjoyed watching that experience.
Watching that learning curve happen. Yeah, I can imagine. So let's talk a little bit about, you guys are on a really interesting journey right now. You have an RV. Kind of tell us about what you're doing and what goes on day to day with your life right now.
Yeah. Well, some people, we post on Facebook places that we're going, have been, and such as that, with pictures and stuff. And we often get this comment, guys, you are living the dream. And we are, but I think the dream came out and kind of captured us. It's not like we'd not thought about this for years and years and years and years. It's we actually had purchased a travel trailer really at the time Neil was going through seminary, and we thought he was going to use it as a dorm room up in Fort Worth. And so it didn't turn out to be used that way, but what we did use it for was sanity. When I say that, because of the hours I was working in women's ministry, in January, we would make sure that we put on the calendar. I made reservations and everything, and we put on the calendar for a full year at least once or twice a month for us to get out in that travel trailer so I could unplug. And that was a very important part of our marriage, because he was in seminary. I had a high pressure job.
Sure.
It was really easy for us to get pulled apart in that. But those trips away really brought us back together and helped us with our marriage a lot. So we had been doing that for 8 years, and we ended up we wanted to get a different, and we went from a bumper pull to a fifth wheel, and took a 3-week vacation. We went to Yellowstone, and it was on the trip back home from Yellowstone. I looked at Neil and I said, there's not one thing that I did not pack that I felt like I needed. And in fact, I packed a lot of stuff I didn't need. We have a lot of stuff we don't need. And wouldn't it be cool if we could just do this all the time? And so that probably took about 2 years for us to really wrap our heads around what that would look like. Online allowed me to continue working while we took that first year out, which was amazing. And so we just decided we would do it. And we downsized. He was working online. I was working online. It was just, we just said, let's just do it now. Don't wait. Let's do it now while we can and enjoy it. And that's what we did.
So we leased out our house as a safety net, that if it wasn't going to work out, we could always get the house back. But that has worked out great. We've got renters in there that pay on time, that are up in their age, so there's no tear up of the house or anything like that going on. Her job allowed her to be on the internet anywhere. My job allowed me to be on the internet anywhere. We got the Verizon Unlimited package. We've got our cell phones on AT&T, so we can use that as a hotspot if we can't get Verizon coverage. We've had this trailer now for about 2 years. And in that time, we've traveled over 20,000 miles.
Wow.
We've gone coast to coast. We've gone up to Washington, D.C., and she mentioned the trip to Yellowstone. And there are times that I'm driving 70 miles an hour down an interstate highway, and she is on this video media, doing video conferencing, or she's watching the church service or doing whatever, because you can.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Pretty amazing. Where's your next destination?
Our next destination, we're going to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico, up to Glorieta conferences, and volunteer for some youth camps during the months of July and August. And then we'll get back into South Texas in time for some high school football for our grandson.
He's coming back for football. I'm coming back because we're having another grandbaby.
And both are good reasons, right?
That's
Both are good reasons.
That's all.
Exactly. Get you to the same, at least you're going to the same place. That's what's really good. So what have been some of the challenges? Is there any challenge in doing the RV living, just even in marriage? I mean, you guys are together, 24/7, pretty much the time right now.
Yeah, that's the challenge sometimes too.
Yeah.
We set some rules early on when we were living in the house, and it carried over to now. And it came from the fact that I'd seen how our government is set up with the Secretary of the Interior. So we've set up the housing situation where we have got the Office of the Exterior and the Office of the Interior. So she's got her space and I've got mine, and I can't tell her what to do inside her space, and she's not supposed to tell me what to do out of mine. So,
you used the word supposed when you talked about Martha's part of that.
I noticed that. We'll talk about that later.
After we get off the podcast, right? Yeah, I think there's a lot of, and I think for all of us, our marriage, we've got to kind of figure out what works for us, and especially when you do a lifestyle change like you guys have. there's some adjustments there, and you're living in a smaller place than you probably ever have. And
140 square feet.
yeah,
It's twice the size of the tiny homes that you're seeing on cable television now.
okay. So
Well,
you're,
we did too is we researched this. There's actually a couple of Facebook groups that I became a member of that are for what we call full-time RVers. And one of the words of wisdoms that we got from them was that we should give each other permission to take a retreat from one another. And that could be anything. That could be going out for a walk. It could be going to a movie by yourself. It could be laying in the hammock reading your book unapproached. But to give yourself permission to do that without each other, either one of us getting our feelings hurt. Because so I think that's been pretty important.
That's important, yeah.
yeah, because I think when people think about what you guys are doing, it sounds like an adventure. There's so many things that I think people think, gosh, that'd be so much fun, and you have the freedom to do that. But just like anything in marriage, it comes with challenges, and we have to be prepared for that, and know yet there's always going to be an answer if we take the time to work that out. It sounds like you guys have made some good adjustments if you've been into that.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I'm so excited, Martha, to have you. It's been fun to have you guys both here so people get to know you as they're going to see the results of your work. And actually, you'll be active in the groups. And so people that are in the groups will get to know you better also. Kind of a final question is, what do you feel like God is really teaching you right now in your marriage?
For me, I think what he's teaching me is how precious time is. Time is easily squandered. Even on this media that I have grown to love so much, Facebook, it can be a huge distraction. It can be a huge squandering of time. Time is easily squandered. It's also a daily gift. You just can't take that for granted. I quit taking that for granted. And it is also an investment. So time is easily squandered. It's a daily gift, and it is an investment. It's an investment in one another. It's an investment in our family, and it's an investment in our faith. And so I would say that, in closing, that living simply has turned out to be living large.
Oh, that's awesome. Neil, what would you say?
I would say that when we're out of town, when we're out traveling, the times together, you get used to the fact that you're close by, and that you're on each other's mind, that you're living life together. And when we come back into town, we've got the kids, we've got the grandkids, we've got our friends, we've got family. Everybody is pulling on us for time, and it just gets taken away from us.
Yeah.
So I've come to the point in the last couple of times we've come into town that after about 6 weeks or 2 months, I'm ready to get back on the road. And I think that is selfish of myself, but at the same time, when I look back over the last 14, 15 years when she was working full-time at church, full-time for a church member is 60, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's not 40.
Yeah.
And when I was going to seminary, we had to sit there and think about, okay, what if I'm called to another church? Are you going to come along with me? Because the other church wants to be with me. And we had to come to the decision that her position at the large church, where she had 5,000 to 8,000 ladies that were on her email distribution, she had a huge amount of people that were depending on her leadership. And so when she talks about having all these groups together, yes, those were the leaders. She had 40 or 50 leaders, but she may have had, thousands that were actually being touched by those leaders.
Wow.
So they took up a lot of time. And
sure.
I'm trying to grab all that back.
You're trying to make up for lost time there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Neil, I thank you for joining us today, so people get to know you too. And Martha, of course, again, we're so thankful to have you as a part of our team. And thank you guys for just spending time with us today. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.